Hello, Harrison County campers. My name's Samantha Huffman. I am the head hair and makeup designer for the vintage theater company's Rustic Mechanicals. And today I'm going to show you how you can make a wound using latex, liquid latex, and some Ben Nye and Mehron products. So we're gonna use Ben Nye Liquid Latex. I get the big drum because I use this a lot in my designs. We're gonna use the Mehron Bruise Wheel. So here's what this looks like. You probably won't be able to read that, but it's a Mehron product. It's got lots of neat things in there that make it easy to move on the skin and on the latex. And for our effect, we're also gonna use Ben Nye's Thick Blood. As you can see, it's one of my favorites and I use it. We just used this in our production of Macbeth. So we're gonna use all of these products. You'll also need a little plate or a dish to put your liquid latex in, some foam sponges, and some toilet paper. And that's how we'll do that. So the first step that we would have for you is first make sure that you don't have a latex allergy. If you have a latex allergy, you can do some of these things with spirit gum, but you'll definitely want to make sure. If you don't know if you have a latex allergy, I would recommend doing just a small test patch. If it starts to burn or sting or anything like that, first I would recommend asking your parents if you have the allergy. If not, you can try it that way. But if you do notice any discomfort when you're using it, immediately peel it off, take it off, wash it, and then cease using the liquid latex. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go ahead and take our liquid latex that I've already got put in our little plate here. I've already prepped one arm so that we won't have to wait for me to dry while we're doing this, but I'm gonna show you how you would put on your first layer. So you're gonna decide where you'd wanna do your wound. When you're working on yourself, the forearms are a great place to work. So we're gonna go ahead and show how it would apply to this part of my arm. So I would take the little sponge and you're gonna get a little bit of that latex and apply a very thin layer. So with latex wounds, the thinner the layer, the better. You can always build up coverage, but the thicker your layer, the longer it's gonna take to dry. So you're gonna want a very thin layer like so, and it's gonna take a moment to dry. When it dries, it'll turn clear. So as you can see here on the one that I've already done where it's dried pretty clear, it's a little bit shiny, but you can't see that kind of opaque latex coloring. And then what I would do is while that's drying, I would take my little piece of toilet paper, and toilet paper has 2 plies in it generally, the stuff that you're probably gonna buy at home, maybe not the stuff in the schools, but so you're gonna separate the plies, and then you're gonna take your little square and you're gonna rip around the edges so that you don't have any finished straight edges. Because that's going to make your wound look a little bit more natural. If you leave the straight edge or that perforated edge there, it's going to stand out. And you'll want to try to use toilet paper that doesn't have a print on it, like hearts or diamonds or anything like that. And then you would take once that's dried to tacky, you're going to go ahead and take your piece of toilet paper and lay it on. And then we would take our little sponge and we're going to go back over that and paint back over that. So this latex has been sitting out for just a few minutes before we started, so it's starting to set up on me. And we would paint over that, starting from the middle when you're putting it down, and then working out so it doesn't wrinkle up on you. And then you're just gonna slowly brush it around. If any of it flakes off like that, it's not a big deal. We need a little bit more latex. I'm just gonna pour a little bit more out for us. And it's gonna smell weird. It smells a little bit like eggs, I guess. Rotten eggy kind of smell, but that's okay. It doesn't mean it's gone bad. It's just kind of how it smells. And then it doesn't smell once it's dried. So we're gonna take that and we would put it on there, and you're gonna get it a little bit, so I say about 1 centimeter past the edge of the toilet paper is what you're gonna wanna do. So you're sealing that edge down, and you're gonna go all the way around, making sure you have that. And if you go a little bit bigger than that, that's fine too. You wouldn't want to go any closer than that probably. And then you would let that dry. Now, because I knew we were doing this today, I went ahead and did this patch on before I started filming. So this is what this would look like. And you actually would go ahead and let this dry, paint another layer of latex, add another piece of toilet paper on top of that, paint over it, and paint with the latex, of course, and let that all dry. So you're gonna get something that looks like this. Then we're gonna create our wound. So now, depending on what type of wound you're gonna wanna create for your murder mystery, would be how you're gonna do this rip. I'm gonna do like something took a hunk, a bite, a chunk out of my arm here. So what I would do is I would just take the middle of that and I'm gonna go ahead and pinch it up, and then I'm gonna rip, which is a little bit easier to do with two hands. So you may wanna have your a buddy or a mom or a parent or whoever's there with you to help you with this, or you're gonna take a little bit of time like I just did here, and you're just gonna rip that open, and you're gonna be able to see your skin underneath. And you're gonna let these flaps just kind of be flappy out here like this, because what these are gonna be is these are gonna be our skin rips. So we're gonna use those, and if you pull them out like that, they'll kind of stick tacky to each other, and you're gonna have this great space in here. Now, one thing that you can do, we're not gonna do it today in this video for time's sake, but you can add another layer of latex in here, and then you can take cotton balls, or I've even used crushed up cornflake cereal, things like that to give you texture, and then paint over it, and it's gonna give inside here a texture as well. But that takes a little bit longer than we have today for our video, so we're not gonna do that in the video, but that's an option you have. If you do that, you'll put down your layer of latex, add whatever your texture material is, paint over it, and let that dry. And you'd want to avoid the flaps whenever you're painting that extra latex on there, because we want these to be movable and flappy and gross. So what I would do next is then we're gonna take our Mehron Bruise Wheel here. We're gonna open it. Then you're gonna take your sponges. Now, if you're using like class makeup or company makeup, you're gonna want to make sure you're never double dipping with your applique. This is my personal one, so I can. But if you're using that, you'll wanna take a little Q-tip or a little trowel, whatever you have in your classroom, take a little bit out there, put it on your plate or on a piece of wax paper, all of that'll work, and then work from that. But today, because this is my personal one, I can go ahead and just use this straight from the thing, and we're gonna take the darker red, and we're gonna get a nice bit of that on our sponge, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paint the inside of the wound. And I can get it up on those flaps. We wanna make sure that we stay on the skin side of the flap. You don't wanna get it on this part, because we want that to be as if that was the part of our skin that was ripped open. So you can paint on these flappies as well, this side. And you'll just want to give that a nice little coat there. I have a tattoo, so my tattoo will peek through a little bit more. If I were doing this for my own personal event or my own haunted house or something like that, I would probably do a layer of texture for me, just because that would also hide my tattoo here. A fun thing to do with this is if you do a skin rip over a tattoo, is drawing your tattoo on the other side of it. So then you can actually look like it's ripping through the tattoo. So we're gonna go ahead and get all of that on there, paying attention to the outer edges and just getting that nice base in there. So that's gonna be our base of our kind of gory look. And then we're gonna go into the darker purplish black here on the bruise wheel. We're gonna get a little bit of that, and that's what we're gonna use to make this look even deeper than it is. So we're gonna go around the edges of our circle that we've gotten torn out here, leaving the middle a little bit lighter. And we can even put this on the flappies as well. So I'm gonna go around here like this. And that's gonna give it even more definition and make it look even a little bit more deeper, because we're adding the darkness to the outside corner here, and it's gonna make it look a little bit more sunken in. That's what we have here. And now what I would do next, so depending on how old your wound is gonna depend on how much of the other colors that you're gonna use. This wound's pretty fresh for me. What I'm gonna say is I'm gonna take some of this fresh red. It's kind of a very bloody red. I'm gonna take it and put it around the outside here, and just kind of a stippled, we call this kind of stippling motion. It's gonna go over the shiny bit. It's gonna pull down the shine of that latex that I haven't put anything on over top of. And then I'm gonna take my finger and I'm just gonna kind of spread that out and diffuse that color. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna make my skin look really irritated and really like I'm having a rough time. My skin's not doing great here. So it's almost like whenever you're getting a bruise and it turns red first, or you hit yourself on something, or you've got a cut and it turns red around. So it's kind of an angry red there. Then you can also, when you're doing these wounds, you can take your foundation that would match your skin tone, and you can do that around here as well. Again, for time's sake, we're not going to do that today on mine, but that would be something you could do at that point as well. Since we're going to be adding a lot of some Ben Nye Thick Blood to this, I'm not going to worry too much about that because the blood is going to pretty much cover up everything. But if I were doing a wound that was going to be older, or maybe it's gotten infected or it hasn't been cared properly, I would also use some of this yellow and this green to kind of give us that gangrene or infected kind of look. And we'll go through and show you what that would look like. We're just going to add that kind of in a organic pattern. Again, because this is my personal makeup, I'm able to kind of go in there with my turning my sponge on the different sides, so I'm not mixing my colors in the palette, but I can go in and do that because it's not something that I'm sharing with other people, because we don't want to get our germs and get anybody sick or share any, you know, issues that we may have going on with our skin with anybody else. So that's just a good rule to live by with makeup. And so we've got this kind of darker shade. We'll go around, stipple that. And get some of that on there. And then you can also use your fingers. You don't have to use the sponges, whatever's gonna make it move easiest for you. I'm a big believer in using my fingers, getting a little bit messy, getting things in there and getting it right on in. But it's whatever you're comfortable with, whatever is speaking to you while you're doing it. You're the artiste here. So I just want to make sure that I don't have a lot of these wrinkles and crinkles. I want to try to get a lot of some of the makeup onto there. You can have a few of them because whenever we add the thick blood, that's gonna turn a really bright red instead of the dark red of the blood. So you can even go in with this and you can cover there, and you want to just you can pull that up and get underneath it. It feels kind of weird. It's a weird sensation, but it can be very effective, and it's really fun to peel off whenever you peel it off. So what I would do now is I'm going to take some of our thick blood here, and as you can see, it's kind of got a gelatin, gooey kind of feel. One of the reasons that I really like thick blood for wounds like this is that it doesn't move. It's once you put it somewhere, it's not like stage blood where it's going to drip all over the place. So that's a really great feature of this. This is also great for doing bloody noses, or if someone's got a small abrasion and you don't want to break out the latex and do the whole thing, you can take just a little bit of a thick blood and put it on there, and it's gonna look like, you know, you're having a bad time. You put a little bit black line underneath that, it's gonna look like it's been cut. And so you would take this, doesn't take very much, just a little fingerful dab will do ya, and you're gonna go ahead and put that in under here. I like to put it a little bit under where I've pulled up, because then if for some reason it gets touched, it kind of looks out like that and looks pretty disgusting. So we're gonna get that thin layer of it all here, and as you can see, as it's getting on my skin, it kind of turns a little bit of color, and you can add a little bit more here. And you can also, if you're wanting it to ooze and move, if you're wanting it to be drippy, after you've put this on, you can always put stage blood on over top of it, and it will it'll ooze out too. But then you'll have this that will stay where you put it and will actually even eventually dry where you've put it. So that's pretty cool. And then you have your little skin flappies here that we've pulled up. And take a little bit more of this here. And if you've added the texture layer that we had talked about earlier, you won't have to do as much of this to give it that kind of texture inside, because you already have that texturization from your balled up, from your pulled apart cotton ball or cotton swab. or the whatever you're adding to give you that texture. You can experiment with those things. If you paint over with latex, whatever the texture is that you're using is gonna be the texture that you have underneath it. So as you can see with that, where we originally did it in our video, that's pretty dried now, but you can see the texture of the toilet paper. So it's not smooth like skin would be. So you can even pull that up and can rip that one open as well and have another one to start on. But that's kind of the basic there. Yeah, if all else fails, I just say throw a little bit more blood on there and it's gonna, your effect's gonna read. But yeah, so basically just wanna follow what the body's gonna be doing. It's gonna be irritated, it's gonna be inflamed, and that's where you're gonna get that redness. For if you're doing a zombie look or if you're doing kind of an infection look, you can even go in with a blue eyeliner and you can draw your veins. Like, I don't know if you can see it on this camera, but you can kind of see my veins on my wrist. You can even draw those in a little bit more as if they're kind of, you know, the zombie virus is going through them or something like that. It's usually a pretty effective tool. But that is pretty much how you do it. And that's a quick 10-minute wound there for you. So again, my name is Samantha Huffman. I am really happy to get to share with you how you can do this kind of theatrical makeup trick for you. I hope you have a lot of fun at the camp that they're doing for you here in Harrison County. And have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.